China's video gaming industry, the largest in the world, has shown signs of recovery in the first half of this year, 2 years after tough regulatory measures were imposed on the sector. By the end of June, the number of gamers in China had reached a record number of nearly 670 million, meaning that half the population are gamers. China's regulator approved 89 new licenses for domestic games in June, the highest number of monthly approvals in 6 months. Revenue from China's gaming market reached nearly $40 billion last year, thanks to some of the country's major gaming companies like Tencent, NetEase and Perfect World. And globally, gaming is the highest grossing sector in the entertainment industry, with revenue of nearly $160 billion in 2020. And it's making more money than the music and movie industries combined. Well, let's talk now to Alexander Champlin, who's esports senior analyst at Nico Partners, specialising in market trends and insights for Asia. Welcome to the programme, Alexander. So tell us, why are we seeing so many new gamers in China?
Yeah, thanks for having us, Robin. A couple of factors here. As you mentioned, there have been some pretty strict regulations. And so, those were implemented 2 years ago, and we're starting to see publishers and gamers understand and figure out how to kind of work with and around those regulations. We've also seen a lot of new AAA games released, and so some kind of leading titles are Valorant, Lost Ark, and Honkai Star Rail. And so these big titles from publishers like Tencent, MiHoYo, and NetEase are really kind of driving engagement and excitement around games. And then, the last has been the kind of return to normalcy after the COVID pandemic, and so we're seeing esports events return to in person, and just sort of a growing excitement around games.
So you mentioned some new releases in the gaming world. What kind of games are people playing? And has there been an evolution in the kind of things that are popular?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the three titles that we're sort of seeing as particularly important, the one that's perhaps most topical right now is Tencent and Riot Games' Valorant, which was released at the start of this month. It was the second most streamed game at the date of its release, and so that's just a new game hits the market, and gamers are excited to try it out and kind of engage with the community around it. The other title that's been really big is MiHoYo's Honkai Star Rail, which is a part of the Miho-verse, and so it's more of an MMO kind of collaborative or multiplayer online game with a huge kind of world that players can engage with, and it's part of a series of games that MiHoYo has produced, and so these big AAA titles are really kind of driving engagement around gaming in China.
So we're seeing a boost in the number of gamers within China, but we're also seeing more Chinese companies operating in overseas markets, aren't we? Is that something that's likely to continue?
Yeah, absolutely. So the sort of tight regulatory environment in China created a push for these big Chinese game companies to expand and kind of grow their markets overseas. And so there's been a lot of expansion, acquisition, kind of coming from the Chinese market to ingest talent and and kind of get ideas from big Western publishers and developers, and so there's a lot more cross-pollination of ideas and cooperation.
So China is the world's largest gaming market. How does what's happening there affect the global gaming industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So China's huge, and just to kind of put this in context for you, it accounts for about 31% of global mobile games revenue and 33, almost 34% of global PC games revenue. And so this is just a huge piece of the pie. And, it means that when game approvals are on, and we've seen, a huge slate of new game approvals this year. So we've kind of returned to like a regular cadence. There was a sort of a licensing approval freeze the last year, particularly on import games. So these are games created by international developers that would then be distributed to China. And so, as this licensing has kind of returned to normal, it's created an opportunity for, for companies to get a piece of that market. And so, just kind of given the size of the Chinese market, there's a lot of excitement about this kind of return to a normal licensing cadence.
Alexander Champlin from Nico Partners, good to talk to you. Thank you for joining us.